Do clear companies have an unfair advantage in AI search? But I want to understand what you think the LLMs are recognizing from a brand perspective that they are establishing as valuable, and why your customers might be getting cited. What is making an unsexy company sexy today in marketing?
It's unique content. Right now, Google just had an algorithm update, and also, the SEO Journal reported a big update for their algorithm, as well as making significant changes to the AI mode at the same time.
So for every service that we offer, we actually have to make sure that we are having several professionals actually weigh in and review the content for it to pass the filters that LLMs and Google have set up to protect themselves from your money or your life.
Anyone could use AI to write, but then now we have this sea of sameness, right? Where you have so many brands that sound similar and so many stories that are just duplicative, right? And so AI notices this, and it will shift and sift out what is really standing out because it's pattern-based.
Welcome to SEO On-Air. I'm your host, Koa Kauwe. This is brought to you by Stand Ventures. We have two guests on with us today that I think are going to have some unique perspective on the AEO, GEO, SEO world that we're in today. And specifically, both of them have some experience in the healthcare industry and in running the practice. Belinda has some experience in running businesses and trying to tie business goals directly into marketing goals. So I'm excited to have the two of you on to help our listeners understand you better. I'd like them to hear from you and not just from me. Olivia, if you don't mind starting us off, tell us a little bit about your background in marketing.
Sure. I have been in SEO for about 17 years now. Started out actually doing link building and also content development and strategy, and naturally wanted more control over where my websites were going. Got into SEO and technical SEO and really built my way up. And so at this point in my career, I've worked with very large brands from all different kinds of verticals, but mostly have found my niche in medical clients, big and small.
I'm excited to have you here. We've dug into that a little bit before the podcast, and I'm excited to be able to ask you a few questions on your background there as well. Thank you for joining us. Belinda, please give us a little bit of a perspective on who you are.
Yes, so I am a serial entrepreneur, and I have been working, I started out my career in working at a Fortune 500 company, did that for a decade, and decided I wanted to run my own business. So I started running my own businesses in 2008, where I started my first company. Fast forward to last August, I bought this company that I am now the CEO of, Good to Be Social. And I don't have 17 years of SEO experience like Olivia, but I do have a couple of decades of experience in helping businesses achieve their business goals, align their mission, vision, and values with all of that, and make sure that they know the direction that they're going. And now Good to Be Social allows me to help bring a digital marketing support system to our clients that are looking to achieve very specific goals. And our team is fabulous. They're the ones that have the extensive digital marketing expertise that we bring to our clients every day. And for us, we're really focused on the legal industry, also big and small. So our clients are everyone from a solo matrimonial practitioner, attorney, to a big law firm in the AmLaw 100 that is looking to us for understanding strategy and staying on top of what's going on in the industry. So, and everything in between. So that's a little bit about who we are. We really believe that the law firms who are looking to lead the change and not be reactive to the change that happens in the digital world will help them to become very visible. And so we like to help those clients do that. Those are the ones we attract.
It'll be good to have the contrast there between the SEO experience and the business experience, because we've seen those with the KPIs becoming way more aligned than they have in the past. So I think that's a great combination. And Lisa, you're on mute right now, but I'm glad that you were able to join us. If you could unmute yourself and give us a little background on who you are and your experience in the industry.
Awesome. Hi. Yeah. So I'm the head of earned and owned media here at Blue Wheel And I am also a university professor at Cleary University, which is a really business-focused university out here in Michigan. We, at Blue Wheel, our day-to-day is very focused on the D2C eco space as well as the retail brands, like thinking about how that comes across for some of the larger scale brands, right? That's usually a mix of both retail and the D2C. So with my experience, I've been brand side and agency side, and really, look forward to thinking about how all of the channels come together. And, with this opportunity, just thinking about, SEO, GEO, AEO, how do all those things play into the social space and where some of these results are coming from has been really exciting.
I think that's going to tie back to the KPIs too, and where these results are coming from. I'm excited to have the three of you join in for the conversation. I actually want to start this conversation off by diving into the data just a bit here. KPIs do seem to have changed a lot. We initially for a long time, it was just getting ranked on page one. And that seems to have been thrown completely out the window this summer. So it feels like ranking on position one or whatever it might be now is completely changed with the industry today. And I want to just understand from the three of you, and feel free to jump in and discuss this together, but what does it mean to be top ranking today? What are the actual, what is the metric we're actually looking for today to prove success?
For our clients specifically, the only KPI that really matters is if we're bringing qualitative leads to our client, and they can increase their patient pool, and we are connecting them with the right audiences. There are lots of vanity metrics like traffic and clicks, and those can be indicative of user behaviors and even traffic. But in terms of what actually matters to your client in terms of revenue, making sure that you are delivering them, be it sales, be it leads, something tangible that will actually help their business grow.
Yeah, for our clients, the legal industry is very much a relationship business. So oftentimes almost every time people are asking for a referral, right? So depending on whether it's a B2B or a B2C legal industry, if it's B2C, maybe they're going to search on Google and find someone, ring them up and hire them. But even then, if you're looking for a divorce attorney, you're going to go ask a friend. If you're a CEO of, a $300 million company, you're going to call up your PE partners and ask them for referrals for commercial litigation. So our metrics that are really important for our clients are really AI visibility. They want to make sure that they're showing up on the first page, but not in a blue link, in an answer to the question of who is the best commercial litigation that understands the oil and gas industry in, Houston, and also does business, overseas in the Middle East. That is going to be the prompt that they're putting in there now. And they want their name to be showing up in that answer.
Lisa, do you have any thoughts on what it takes to be ranked on top, what people are actually valuing today?
Yeah, great question. So when it comes to the, whether it's a product or a business, service, I think there's still opportunities where there's overlap as far as thinking about what your customers are looking for in answers, right? So typically when we're looking at a brand, we're thinking about what is the problem that a customer or client might be trying to solve, right? And so going through that, sort of brain space of, what are the top 20 things? And then you go into more competitive analysis and think about, okay, when somebody is prompting AI or typing into Google search, which now has Gemini, what are the things that are coming up? Who's coming up? And are you coming up for the things that you think you would, right? So if you are a brunette with curly hair and you're looking for the best product for your spring break trip, is your brand coming up as the answer? Maybe, maybe not, right? Maybe there's somebody that has an opportunity to go viral, so to speak, with one of their social posts, and now AI is picking that up as the sort of source of truth. And so you have to lean in there and think about, okay, if we want to come up for these things, how are we working through our content to tell that story, right? Internally, we might know this is the best product and we think so because of all the work we put into it, but your customer might not necessarily know that because you're not putting that out into the world.
I think I started smiling as you were answering the question because I appreciate that the knowledge that's coming through so subtly here is like deeper than what you're hearing too. The content truly aligning with the customer is it feels like such a small thing when you say it, but it's so vast in execution that it's like a complicated part of running a successful marketing agency. Something I've seen today, and I'm pretty confident the three of you have seen it as well, is that content velocity and volume is being increased by a lot of agencies across the world at this point. AI has empowered agencies to produce so much volume of content, and whether or not it truly aligns with the customer is the complicated nuance there. So with AEO and GEO, have they made it where brand is actually more important than the content volume of a website? And where is the value, the balance there? Because there definitely is a balance to having your content visible. They're saying every service you list, but not getting too thin with that content to make it so it's not valuable. And I just want to understand from the marketing perspective, how are you balancing volume and really content quality that connects with your customer?
In our view, your brand is not going to be visible if your content is not authoritative, unique, and quality. So what we practice in our agency is quality over quantity. Our clients often require us to have actual lawyers writing their blogs on their behalf. They don't mind. They're like, you can use AI. I use AI. Who doesn't use AI? But it needs to be used professionally, responsibly, in a way that augments the work that's being done and not in place of a human. The human element that I feel like any agency can bring to the table is the partnership, the strategy, and the judgment that AI can't really do. So for us, it's really about making sure that the content is authoritative, it's unique, it speaks really to their expertise. And in our experience, it's absolutely working. Our clients are getting work as a result of the work we're doing. I liked what Lisa said about making sure that it's not just your website that you're focused on, but your social media. It's a very important part of the entire system because now the LLMs, everything is game. They are looking at every single thing, which is before the search engines were not. And so now you do have to be mindful about making sure that this quality content is being properly disseminated among all the platforms. But for us, it's not about volume, it's about quality and making sure it's consistent and staying true to the foundations.
I really like how you called that out because with the piece about lawyers and them writing, their authority shines through with the GEO, right? Because, it's funny, we work with so many beauty brands, so that's where a lot of my references are coming from, but we are actually working with a brand right now where they're looking at their content and they have a blog writer, but it's not necessarily somebody who is like a dermatologist speaking on how the skincare would help, right? And that has so much more weight when you have somebody with credentials and authority in the space to speak on your behalf, really, right? Somebody you partner with. And so we're looking at our brands and, where are there places that maybe some of those creators can collaborate and work across the board and even to do, bigger pieces, right? Where you have a number of experts like on this call today, right? Where, they're chiming in on what they're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say so much of my work, especially recently, has been updating our schemas with person schemas that are really robust for the type of professionals that we are tying back to the content. And for medical and treatment centers, that includes a medical director with an actual medical degree, a clinical director who works with psychiatric patients. And so for every service that we offer, we actually have to make sure that we are having several professionals actually weigh in and review the content for it to pass the filters that LLMs and Google have set up to protect themselves from your money or your life conditions, which is both good and also, I think, a learning curve for a lot of clients that may never have delved this deep into something this technical.
I'm going to ask this next question. It was one I had prepped for today. I think you've answered it to a certain extent, but I want to understand a little deeper on why this may be. But the question is, do clear companies have an unfair advantage in AI search?
What kind of companies?
Clear companies that are clearly defined. And I could rephrase this into
niche companies.
I'll rephrase this into something I heard recently from another guest was their company's philosophy is they're going to make unsexy companies sexy. And the unsexy company can be, maybe it is legal, right? Like legal is boring. But what makes it sexy today in the AEO, GEO world? And that it's kind of along the lines of volume, but I want to understand what you think the LLMs are recognizing from a brand perspective that they are establishing as valuable and why your customers might be getting cited. What is making an unsexy company sexy today in marketing?
It's unique content. Right now, Google just had an algorithm update. And also, the SEO Journal reported a big update for their algorithm, as well as making significant changes to the AI mode at the same time. So right now, whatever metrics people are looking at, you can't really trust them. Whether you're getting a lot of traffic or a little traffic, they're trying to figure it all out. And so what that means is you have to stick to the foundations, you have to stick to the basics, and you have to not get distracted with all of these, fun Instagram people saying fire your agency and just insert this bot and produce 40 pieces of content, every month, because that's going to set you up for not being consistent and authoritative whenever it shakes out. So what makes it sexy is the unique nature of it, because eventually these algorithms are going to know whether there's like 50 other things on the internet that say the exact same thing and there's no added value here. It's going to know. And if that's the case, it's not going to be served up in the AI answer. If it's unique, if it answers a question, if it has a point of view that hasn't been heard before, that is going to show up. So that's what can make any industry sexy that's not sexy when it comes to the LLM.
Completely agree. That is so relevant to everything that is going on right now. I know there are so many SEOs even that feel a little winded with the sheer volume of changes that have been happening in our industry at a rate we've never seen before. But as professionals in agencies or in-house that get to see a lot of clients and how things shake out for them, we get to see data faster than our clients possibly could. And so in a way, it has leveled the playing field for us to really kind of figure out what is going on before even Google does, and find the patterns and teach our clients what those patterns are and how to actually weather those storms and benefit long term. And that is so much of what I do, is trying to future-proof my clients with these strategies and say, I can see this is coming down the pike soon. They might not announce it several months in advance like they used to, but that's why I'm going to implement it for you now.
Lisa, you're in the beauty industry. So how do you make sexy company or unsexy companies sexy?
That's a great question. I was actually thinking of another brand, because we do have so many different CPG brands as well. And with those brands, so there's two things, right? So on the beauty side, there are products that are a little bit more behind the scenes, right? It might be a skincare routine that you do before you apply makeup. And so, in that instance, we do lean more into the science, and we lean more into just more the hard facts, I would say, about ingredients, where they come from, why these, and what makes it different from a competitor. I don't think anyone really kind of dove into this. I mean, a little bit earlier on, like the volume of AI content now. I think you both touched on it a little bit as far as like anyone could use AI to write, but then now we have this sea of sameness, right? Where you have so many brands that sound similar, and so many stories that are just duplicative, right? And so AI notices this, and it will shift and sift out what is really standing out, because it's pattern based, right? It's looking for trends. It's looking for, okay, what's unique to this? And so I like how Olivia had like that technical side of it, and then Belinda had the, thinking about the content and the angle, right? And so for some of the CPG brands where there are a lot of competitors, I think about where we can go deeper in the specialized like event or life challenge that somebody's going through. Maybe somebody's getting ready for their wedding, and so they need the best bridal gifts for a fall wedding, right? And so now, okay, that's very specific, right? So, do the colors play into that? Is this somebody that's having, orange and copper in their wedding? Is there, what I mean? How many people are in the bridal party? What's your budget? And the more specific you get, it actually works really well with AI and AEO and those sorts of things, because it's on a mission to find you the best product based on the content that's out there. So some of our brands know what that looks like for them. Other brands are still trying to figure it out, and that's where we can kind of lean in and test and learn. But it's funny because Olivia had mentioned this, you have to work ahead, but at the same time, you need to test, which takes time. So it's really a balancing act, especially for the brands that need to set their piece of the space, right? Where like, this is where we really shine through.
There's a saying that has come on the podcast of authority generates authority, right? And it feels like everything you've said, three of you have said, basically summarizes into Google's trying to make the best recommendation. LLMs are trying to make the best recommendation. The sexiest thing to them is someone that they think has the authority to actually answer the question, and not just content for the sake of content, because LLMs can produce content. So it's like that Persian schema, something that connects it to authority that actually gives it value. I think that's really fascinating. One thing that we're seeing, to touch on the content automation, is there are a lot of agencies that are trying to automate the marketing completely for their clients, where they have leaned on LLMs and AI tools and all kinds of stuff to produce the content at scale. They think that their agents are giving enough context to just produce good content for them, and they'll sell these like year-long full service marketing campaigns. And the tools are getting really powerful. And so people are able to do this and run solo agencies where they feel like they can help their customers. What I'm concerned with, and I would love to hear from you, is where there's holes in the quality of the work that they're automating, and where we feel like an agency still needs to fit into this model.
I am so glad you asked. There are so many holes. I would certainly not trust full automation for my brand voice or content. It can help. I like to think of AI as a tool that can help you get to the outcome that you want a little faster. But without constantly training it, without oversight, what it would produce is hot garbage, frankly. And another thing that I think each of you kind of mentioned is that everything will look the same because it's pulling from, I guess, a huge average of what that content is supposed to look like. And it's true. AI is going to produce a content Ouroboros that is just constantly eating itself. And so if we are not creating new content and giving it new points of view to actually write about and explore, it loses its value because it will all be homogenized at some point. And there are some really lovely things about AI that have made my day-to-day easier, and it certainly makes things faster. It makes research a little faster and cleaning up and outlining a lot faster. But at the end of the day, much like Belinda, I still need lots of medical professionals to sign off on my content before I can slap it up on the website. And so, can it help? Absolutely. Is it a replacement? Not at all. And in fact, I think Sam Altman, who recently got sued because a teenage boy committed suicide based on a chatbot recommendation, would tell you the same thing. Chatbots are flawed. They hallucinate sometimes. And without authority reining it in, it could really be problematic.
It's not a perfect apples to apples comparison, but just to also throw some other examples of where AI is not perfect. I think there are some statistics around the accuracy of answers that, say, Gemini serves up. And, version 2 was something in the 80% accurate, version 3, maybe 90 something percent, maybe 92, 93% accurate, which if you do the numbers and the math, you realize that that's still millions of answers that are inaccurate every hour that are being served up. There are citations that do not match whenever you click through them. If you are not careful, you really have to check every single thing. And so I don't really know what these agencies, how they're building their models to write this content. And if they're relying on these LLMs to any degree, as opposed to creating their own, data source that's the only thing it's pulling from, it's risky business to rely on AI solely. It's just simply not there yet. And in my view, it never will be. Like I said, it's that partnership strategy and judgment that human will always need to be in the loop.
The legal and medical industries too seem like you guys have a perspective that's going to be a little more like exact. Like you really don't get to flirt with disaster when you're dealing with someone's legal situation or a medical situation.
Absolutely not. And there have even been AmLaw firms that have gotten their hands slapped by judges because they submitted case law that was total fiction because someone, and I get it. These lawyers are working 80 hours a week. They're trying to get something in by midnight. I get it. They're under tremendous pressure. So let's not forget about what their experience is trying to get something out, but they have to be extra judicious in making sure that they check, even if they don't think they have time.
Elisa, what's your perspective on the holes of maybe trying to automate a whole agency? The value of having a true agency.
It's really interesting how the conversations evolve because I think, there's two sides to this. One is the outputs, right? Where obviously we see that flawed, whether it's in creative or we see that in Word documents or, just this text, right? Text outputs, but also in data analysis. So, that could be a whole nother conversation for another day. But then, the original question about process and automation. So we actually, myself and another team member were talking to a brand and they're like, oh, you don't need a developer anymore. And I was really interested to hear where they got that idea from. And it's things like Claude, where it's advertised as this great tool that can handle everything. And that's not necessarily true. And it also comes with risks because now you've plugged it into everything. And if you give it that ability to go ahead and go live with whatever it is that you're trying to achieve before you get that QA in, you are not going to necessarily get the end result that you are looking for. So that's a very high level, overview. I would say, there are other pieces that it really, I haven't seen anyone able to get there fully. But really what it comes down to, I think, is, looking at the processes and then thinking about, 80 to 90% of the way there, right? You obviously need a human in the loop. You can't have it necessarily output into the world without any oversight. And so there was a webinar I was in not too long ago. Actually, I take it back. It was a recording of the webinar, but they were going through different cases where even the chat bots were giving up answers And then I believe there was a lawsuit based on what the chatbot said. And the company said, oh, no, that was our chatbot. And I said, no, this is you. You are responsible for the chatbot. And so, there are some inferences there that really need to be cleared up. I think when a company takes on AI as its, pseudo employee, you're still responsible for what's being put out into the world. I've heard a lot about the legal cases and the citations that are from fake references, right? Cases that don't exist, and I've heard a lot about creative that just has fallen flat. I'm actually working on some content for my students about the Coca-Cola AI ads, right? And so how we've seen those evolve, where people are very sensitive to glitchy AI, and it's different. Computer generated was one thing, right? We all went through that, where it's like, oh, okay, these advancements in technology, but now if something's 100% AI generated, okay, where's the human in the loop to catch when the rendering isn't quite right, and it's clear it's not the technology limitation, it's the direction that was missing to tell it what to do, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think there's something to it, right, Lisa? I'd love your perspective on this, where it's intentionally meant to not look real, right? Versus I'm making something that we're going to try to make look real. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gave a presentation a couple weeks ago, and I used AI to create this video that was very obviously not real. It was my partner, business partner, and me getting in a boat and in our business suits and like rowing down a river. Like, it was obviously fake, and everybody laughed, right? Like, compared to people trying to create content and to try to make it look real, and you're like, what if the person only had 4 fingers? All of a sudden. And how people are responding to that, right?
Yeah, I think the New York law that just came into play is very interesting as well. I don't know if you all had heard about that. So that went into effect earlier this week, where if you have an AI model or you have someone that has been altered, then you need to have a disclaimer on your advertisement that says this is a AI model. There's a couple different ways you could word it, but it is a significant issue for the New York market. And it's a disclosure law, right? Because people, at the point of technology right now, there are some cases where you can't tell, if this was a real person at one time. It may look like someone, but that's not where it came from in some of these cases, right? It just came from AI. Is the sort of.
I am the operations manager here at Lead to Conversion, and I have to have the conversation with all of my employees about Uncanny Valley and how to check images, because especially if we're representing your money or your life client, trust is such a huge foundation of that. And if you are using images or messaging that aren't authentic, you're already giving people Uncanny Valley vibes, and that can only hurt you. We spend so much time looking at web design and the right colors and branding that are going to establish that trust. But if you are intentionally creating fake people so that you don't have to pay for stock licensing or pay an artist to come and take photos or whatnot for your brand, are you actually introducing less trust to your audience? Are you making them question you right off the bat?
This is a big deal generationally. And what's so interesting to me is that the older people, the older generations, they are accepting of AI and care a little bit less than the younger generations. They do not like this. And there is even a trend for some like lo-fi video, because whenever they see something, they know it's real and they don't have to question it, because I think Olivia's right. Like, this trust in what it is a really big deal to especially a younger generation who we always need to be focusing.
Before we went live with the recording, Belinda and I were chatting just a bit about some of the automation that we've seen in the industry already. And one of the things I've noticed is that the local service companies have been really pitched automated, like receptionists and automated outbound calls and automated features like that. And I've been getting text messages at a rate that I've never gotten them before. And every single one of them, the first thing I do is mark it as spam. I don't even think that I'm going to be calling these people, because it's clearly not for me. And that's what I feel like we're seeing with a lot of the AI stuff, is like, you didn't make this for me. This is not for me. It feels like that's self-serving. You've used this to reduce your costs, or you've used this for ease. but it had nothing to do with like trying to actually help me. And I feel like that's where I'm feeling like a lot of the AI tools are shortcutting and not letting the end user actually feel like they've been seen with the AI tools. And I want to go back to the sea of sameness conversation. I know I talked to, there's a video, I think a social media influencer that was talking about game streamers. Like, hey, all these people are playing the same game and they want to make it really easy to post their content online. So they all use the same tools to edit their content. And now you get like the same episode with a different face for every single channel that you go to. And there's just nothing that really feels like it's for you again. So that's happening, I think, for companies across the board that are using these tools. And it seems like that's probably been the case through each phase of marketing for decades, where there's a new tool and everyone starts using it, but it's not really that advanced yet. So they're using it to their minimum capabilities. Whether that was like the beginning of SEO and everyone just starting to create websites and calling their company like AAA plumbers or whatever it was, everyone starts following these patterns and trying to become the top. With AI today, it feels like everyone is going to play that sea of sameness game. And marketing agencies are in the tough position of being more creative than the AI tools. And so I want to understand from a creativity standpoint, how you feel like marketing is changing today versus what I think it was a technical drive for the SEO world for a long time. So for a long time, I'd say technical SEO has dominated SEO, and that you had to get your tech SEO in the right place to get crawled correctly at all. That's getting a little bit easier. And now everyone's going to be playing that sea of sameness game that they're all playing that at that certain level. And now it comes down to creative, which is where I feel like marketing agencies have the huge advantage over the AI tools. But in execution, that is harder. That takes a lot of time. And I want to just hear from the three of you how you're approaching creative today, and if that's changed over the last couple of years where technical SEO has become a little bit more commoditized.
For me, I've always been very content strategy focused, and I do think personalization is one of those things that AI is trying to do, but it can't do it well. It has the idea of it, but doesn't necessarily, it hasn't seen enough of that fleshed out because we haven't actually written it ourselves, right? It is imagining what that might look like when people ask it to write that content, but it's not the same. It's kind of a sad facsimile. But when you actually do the work of creating a new point of view or an edgy new take that doesn't look like everything else, there is a big possibility that you might fail or it might not be well received. And you kind of have to take it back to the drawing board with testing things with your audiences and actually having different groups of people come in and give you their true ideas, and that's terrifying.
It's so funny to think about from the confirmation that ChatGPT and Claude tell me every time I use it that it was the greatest idea that it's ever seen, right?
Right. I mean, it's an agreement machine, and
yeah, I know people who've told Claude, "Do not tell me that I'm smart ever again. I don't need your pat on the back."
But that doesn't necessarily mean it will work. I remember when AI was first coming out, some of the people were very disturbed because AI was making claims that said, if you don't like it or if you downvote this, they're going to unplug me or get rid of me. And people were like, oh God, is that your like soul? Is that your self? And it really does. It's more of a, it wants to serve you well and be told it's good. That's really its only goal, is to get the job done and be told it's good. And when you can actually look at AI and just say, oh, okay, these are your prerogatives, it becomes less personal and you don't think it's an all-knowing God. And you're able to say, oh, okay, if I use you as a tool, and I know that these are the two things you're looking for, and these are the things that I'm looking for, I can actually create really nice content or workflows or whatever I need to do.
Supplement your creative. I like that thought that it is powerful for empowering a human to be creative, not necessarily being creative itself.
Yeah, exactly. And I have found it really helpful. Things like storyboarding or coming up with different styles of art, for instance, that has made it very fast for me to be able to show a client and say, hey, when we're talking about this idea, which of these do you like better? That has made it a lot easier. And it can't really see the rest of it to fruition. It can't necessarily do anything new or novel. That's not what AI is. It's always going to be riffing off of everything it's ever seen.
Yeah, Lisa and Belinda, jump in here and tell me where you think creatives have been more empowered because of the tools, and why. And I'm taking the position that they're set up to succeed in the future. So I want to know if you agree or disagree with that perspective.
Yeah, I do think that the tools are set up to succeed. They're getting better every day. And the way that I think about it is, if you're working with a human, with an average IQ, and we can add AI agents that are also smart to work together and collaborate and improve, making sure that the human is always using best practices, doing things correctly, then it will help them. When it comes to the creative piece, what's really, really critical is maintaining authenticity. If there is somebody who makes a mistake or small whatever in their video, don't necessarily edit that out. Make sure that whoever that person is, that their true personality is shining. Whether it's written content, whether it's an image, a website design, whether it's a logo, it really is important to be authentic. You can't not go through the exercise of discovering the brand voice, the way their approach, their human tendencies, the temperament of the brand, you can't skip that. To use your example earlier about taking shortcuts, that has to be done. Humans have to be there. Yes, of course, AI can help. But ultimately, that authenticity is what's going to be really important at the end of the day and can come through. And I do think that AI can help scale our work. I do think it can make it go faster and make us all more efficient. I do believe that. And we are embracing it, to its fullest. But I think that that's the way to keep your North Star very clear, and then you'll be good.
Earlier, when you had asked about, could you do from, start to finish all of your marketing with AI? I think that was a great question. And I don't think we got to lean into discernment, because what AI, we did, but clearly, when you're going through these and you're QAing and you're launching a full marketing campaign, start to finish with AI, you have to have all these human checks. When you are looking at, how you're going to personalize the content, same thing. We need that discernment. And so when I think about the creative, with your current question, really thinking about you sort of queued it up on the sea of sameness, and it doesn't feel personalized anymore. I actually work with brands on the opposite, because now if you have all of your data together and say, hair type, hair concerns, whether or not they're part of the loyalty program, if they like to pick it up at the retail store versus buy it online, if they buy every 3 months, you can put all those pieces together and it can feel like the most personalized, one-to-one service, because you could be that person at the corner store that says, hi, how are you? How's things going? How are you doing with the humidity? You can really make it personal. And I'm not saying in a chat bot sense. I'm saying with your email flows, with your social content, with your SEO, right? Because that's what we're here to talk about is, the content on the website can be linked back to from your other channels. You don't have to rely on AI alone to go find it and serve it up to people. You want to think about the whole approach. So when you bring up creative, I know there are a number of different things that are a little bit trickier to do, because what we all kind of talked on was volume, right? So if you have your product lines, and again, beauty is just a really easy one to talk about, where like you have, blonde, brunette, maybe you have a custom hair color, right? Then you need specific products to go along with that routine. And if you're going to talk about creative iterations, you one would want to start with real people, because it's a product and you want to show the real results of this. But two, now, if you have these different instances, we really don't lean into it with beauty when you're changing the how it looks. I think my thought process was more so on the understanding of like the iterations you can do. So let me give more context. We have tools that we use to evaluate the way an ad would be received, and you had mentioned bringing in people to give you their real opinion on how it's going, and that's what triggered my thought on the discernment piece, right? Because in the vacuum of AI, where everything is a positive in some platforms, right? Not all platforms, but a lot of the tools are saying all positives. When you have all these iterations and you can run it through AI that is using the what do they call it? Just the different target demographics, right? Like, would this resonate with, Belinda in the city on a muggy day, right? So like something like that, you could lean in there. Or, if you're going to Hawaii for a 2-week trip, does this make sense to pack? Will it pass TSA sizes? Like, things like that. You can do more analysis with AI to speed up the creative process. So it is definitely a tool. I would say when it comes to creative, if it's not beauty and not human centered in that way, if it's more so like household furniture, you have more room, right? I mean, I don't know if anybody's looked at the housing market right now and looked at houses. There are so many virtually staged homes out in the world right now. It is very interesting. There's even options to change. Oh, if this is not your style, you can pick a different style of decorating the house that you have not bought yet through AI. It's wild. And it's, again, like, okay, are the proportions right? Maybe not. But now, now your wheels are turning. Yeah.
Like, I really wonder if I can fit a kitchen table in that room. It looks a little questionable.
Right. But it starts the wheels turning, right? It's part of the selling process. So I know that's, a little bit outside of the SEO piece, but at the same time, if you're looking for a home and you want to make sure it has a 360 tour that you can do AI in, you need to list that now in your listing. Like, be sure to try this AI feature in our listing.
I love that perspective, because you gave us a good example of how it can be empowering a creative at a completely different pace. Like, you're talking about like months worth of research from some marketing agency that you can pull by asking the right prompts, and then trying to use the creatives to be delivering the message that matches, or even in like the technology, being creative in like the way you're displaying things and making them more powerful too. That's really fascinating to think of the depth that you can do with the tools there. I appreciate that perspective. I do want to ask, I have time for one last question. We have 3 minutes left here. So I want to ask this just quickly. What do you think is going to change the most over the next year or two for marketing agencies? I know you may not be fully prepped for this. You may not have the perfect answer, but I would love to just get your quick answer of what you think is going to change the most over the next year or two within the marketing industry.
I think that, AI is going to continue to develop. I think it's harder and more expensive than people realize whenever it comes to augmenting and creating AI tools that, make things scale and augment. But I do think that there's going to be some experimentation over the next year in figuring out how to accomplish that scale, to accomplish how to figure out that augmentation. And hopefully, those of us who are taking that approach are going to find some successes, because what I believe is that, there's going to be some clients who feel like, oh, I can do this on my own now. And to the extent that we can say, oh, let me help you do that, I think that would be, a great answer. So when we think about creating agents that could help our team, we also think about what would this look like if our client said, I actually want to take this over. I don't need you to post on LinkedIn for me anymore. I'm going to do it myself. And then if we said, okay, no problem, you can use the same tools we're using. And if they're proprietary to us, and we can make that easy for them, I think that it's going to help them take their own marketing to the next level. And then they're going to figure out what they do need us for. That's going to be next. Because what AI is doing is it is shrinking the skill moat that we've been experiencing for however long now around what we're capable of doing and what they're capable of doing. And the people who are like really excited about trying it out, they're trying it out. So let's partner with that idea and think about how to help them, as well as the people who are like, I never want to do it myself. Please do it for me. And I think that's what we're going to see over the next year, like a transition to helping people with these basic things that we've been doing for a while, post on LinkedIn, do that themselves, and then take what we're doing for them to the next level. I think we're going to be exploring and figuring out what that is.
Something that our agency has done is we've really leaned into consulting. So that we can keep clients up to date on best practices and help them with development projects on their own to give them the tools. And then they can buy hourly packages and we can kind of be as hands off. But if they do need us, they certainly can purchase our services. And so we've just become more flexible in our offerings from a more traditional SEO service to offering a wider array of services for different clients and different client needs.
Yeah, when I'm looking at it, I'm thinking about disclosure in AI. I think that's going to be a huge move. Thinking about, from the SEO space and the content, with like the New York law coming live, and that's about imagery, I'm curious on how the AI writing will evolve. And I think that the authenticity, and again, when you're using experts and people that have credentials in your writing, I think that's going to just become stronger in SEO, right? As far as, where is the information coming from when you're trying to make your points, for the brand and what you're selling. I think the other piece, when it's from the agency perspective, it is definitely going to be more competitive for brands. And I want to lean in there and think about the partnerships that we have currently, and where we already have brands that are just incredibly smart about their industry, about their business. And our job is to really help them get to the next level in marketing. So thinking about, what are their key moments ahead? And then how are we using AI tools? And again, I like the education theme here as far as like, this is what we're using, this is what we're seeing work. And we want to set them up for success, whether that's a consulting package or, greater hands-on keys, right? We do everything for you. I think it is going to continue to evolve. And I hope that people continue to be curious and learn more about it, whether or not they want to get involved with AI or, execution. Just asking questions is really how we all move forward.
I love it. There's been a theme on this question actually throughout the podcast that most agencies are seeing the world switch over to the automation and the tools that are possible, and being aware that they're probably going to help their customers manage their own tools to a certain extent, rather than having it all in-house and building it all for them. I think that kind of like aligned with a lot of what was said there at the end, is just your customers are getting more the moat. I think that was a great way. The skill moat is smaller. I think even starting a business, I'd rather have started one this year than 3 years ago before the tools were accessible. So I love that we're aware of the changes. I appreciate the three of you joining us for this episode of SEO on Air. We are out of time, so I'll let you go today. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.